We're joined by Caleb Giroux, who covers recruiting for offthehooksports.com. Go to offthehooksports.com for the latest coverage. And this update on Tennessee football recruiting is brought to you by Zach England, a best in Brock Zach England, a personal injury attorney in the Chattanooga area that can go toe to toe with the insurance company's attorneys, and he's going to win, and he's going to make sure you get what you deserve, and that is Zach England, best of Brock. Zach England. Zach's got your back. Caleb Giroux, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
I'm well. So wanted to throw this in because you also cover the Lady Vols, and before we get to the recruiting list, which is strong to quite strong in Tennessee's Junior Day, and we want everybody to hit the thumbs up button, like it, bring more people in to the show. Your thoughts on the Lady Vols last night?
I mean, the same Kelly Harper kept talking about how this team is not there yet and how UConn is on a different level. So I wrote it this morning, but I think the roles are reversed. So the first time Gino Auriemma played Pat Summitt in 1995, Pat Summitt had won, I think, 3 or 4 national championships at that point, and she was like, Tennessee was the team to beat, and Gino was trying to become that team. And they ended up beating Tennessee in 95 and winning the championship and going on to have 11 championships. And now it's almost like Kelly Harper is trying to get Tennessee back into that upper echelon of women's basketball. And Gino and UConn are the team to beat now. And I mean, UConn came in the game first in the nation in shooting percentage, shooting over 50%. And they shot above that average against Tennessee. And yes, UConn didn't miss. And I think shooting above 50% in an empty gym is probably good. But Tennessee just didn't close out. Aaliyah Edwards would stand at the top of the keyhole all night, and nobody would close out on her, and she just knocked down mid-range shots all night. And it's stuff like that that's going to kill this team in the end. Turnovers, and just they don't – sometimes it doesn't – there's a disconnect somewhere on defense, and it always throws off somebody else in the rotation because if there's a disconnect on the wing, then somebody's open in the corner, and it just never works. And when you play schools like a UConn – or LSU on Monday night, or South Carolina coming up in February, if there's a disconnect or if somebody's left open, like you can't, they're going to knock down the shot at this point. At that level of basketball, that shot's going to get hit. So you no longer get bailed by playing little schools. Because when you leave, no offense to UT Chattanooga, but if you leave an athlete from UT Chattanooga open in the corner, they might not hit that shot because that's just not that upper level of basketball. But these mistakes are getting whenever they play ranked teams, these little mistakes become bigger because you can't get away with it. There's no leeway. A little mistake all of a sudden turns into a UConn 7-0 run, and 7 points were all off of turnovers. So it's just little things like that are going to kill them in the end, and it's already cost them 7 games this season.
It has. Let's talk a little bit of Cruton, as Tennessee will bring in a big junior day. Talking Cruton brought to you by Big Orange Phillies. Big Orange Phillies, Maynardville Highway. It is very easy to find, and just Google Big Orange Phillies if you have any trouble. But you want to make sure you do that because Big Orange Phillies will be your home for sports, and there happens to be some football still to be played this weekend. It'd be a great place to go for the Super Bowl as well. Great food, family friendly. They've got the darts, they've got billiards, they've got cornhole. You'll love it. Karaoke. And that's Big Orange Phillies, close to Maynardville and also close to North Knoxville. So, Caleb, give us a rundown of who's going to be in town. What kind of, and I know it's impossible to say how many people are going to show up because people show up at the last moment, that sort of thing. But how big of a weekend do you think this is for Tennessee in a time that used to be dedicated to securing your current year's class because of signing day in February, and now is really about laying the foundation for the following class, which would be 2024?
Yeah, I don't think this junior day will be as big as the first one that saw guys like Ryan Wingo and Boo Carter and guys that Tennessee really wants come to campus. But I think this is probably equally as important for some of the guys they're going after, just maybe not for the fact that they're going to get these athletes, but the fact that they're competing against bigger schools and showing that in these recruiting battles, people are taking them seriously. So I think the biggest name on campus this weekend will be Jarrett Gibson. He's a 5-star running back out of IMG Academy in Florida, and he's the number 10 prospect in the country. And I'm young, so I haven't. I mean, you've probably read a lot more scouting reports than me, but I've never seen Andrew Ivins at 24/7 Sports. I've never seen this before. The first line in his scouting report is the real deal. Period. So that's. I mean, this kid's legit. He runs an 11:33 100. And I mean, they're projecting him to be a first-round draft pick once he leaves college. And he's just a guy that, if you get him, he could probably impact your team as a freshman. And then another 5-star coming in is Bryce Young. He's a 5-star edge rusher. He's a guy that Tennessee's going to have to beat Notre Dame out for. He's leaning Notre Dame. It's really no secret. And Tennessee's getting in late. So I think that's a very good sign for Josh Heupel. They offered Bryce Young in the middle of December. And, I mean, less than a month later, he's coming on campus for a junior day. So obviously, when people – it's kind of like how you see with Deion. When people get that offer from Tennessee, it's no longer like, oh, they were 6-7. Why would I want to go visit Knoxville? Everybody's considering Tennessee the same way you see now. Every time Deion offers somebody, it's almost like instant consideration for Colorado. So it's like apples to oranges, but still the point is Tennessee has now put themselves on the national stage last season to where these kids who probably don't remember the last time Tennessee was good are considering the Vols again. And then the third 5-star that's probably good to watch is Cameron Franklin. He's a defensive lineman. He's coming off Arkansas and Miami visits, and he's the number 24 prospect nationally and the number 1 guy out of Mississippi. So for these 5-star guys, Tennessee's prospects may not be the best, but it's just a matter of the fact that they're coming to campus. And Franklin's been all over. He went to Arkansas. He just came back from Miami. So he's going around and making his rounds. So that's probably the 3 biggest names to watch out for this weekend.
If there's somebody in particular that you have a question about, post it on the message board and we'll address those. But you mentioned Colorado, and I was going to go there. So I'm already seeing, and I don't cover it as closely as you do, but I already see that Tennessee prospects and everybody's prospects, when they get an offer from Colorado, they're automatically interested. Some have made the trip there, and I'm just curious the ripples that you're seeing through that hiring, which is 2 time zones away, but has made an awful lot of news.
Well, you look at Deion's hiring, and usually these schools in their first year don't draw big name talent. Usually they'll get mid-ranked guys, 3 stars, maybe a couple 4 stars, have a winning season, and then all of a sudden next year they start drawing in big names. And Deion, it's immediate that he's already getting kids. And it's almost, even if Alabama offers somebody, it doesn't draw the social media traffic that a Colorado offer does. Like Boo Carter received an offer from Colorado, a big Tennessee target, and he included Colorado in his top schools. And it's almost that's what everybody's talking about is Deion Sanders going to come into Tennessee and take a guy that's basically in the Vols' backyard that should be a guy you want to get. So it's crazy to see that Colorado is drawing national attention, social media buzz, and it's like instant credibility. Anytime a kid gets an offer from Colorado, they are instantly interested, and and it seems like Colorado's in everybody's top schools, which before that wouldn't happen. And sometimes it's even before they make a visit to Colorado. It's just the aura and playing for Deion Sanders.
Jairo, I want to jump in and move over to the transfer portal a little bit because a couple of newsworthy things. You had a great piece on Ole Miss transfer, and I have so much trouble pronouncing his last name, but Davison Igbinosun, he was a freshman All-American. When you wrote the article, we thought Tennessee was a long shot. It doesn't seem like they're a long shot anymore. As a matter of fact, Michael Bratton, host of that SEC podcast, says that he's actually going to commit to Tennessee. What do you hear about that?
I wouldn't go that far, but I have seen the thing with these. It's kind of with the transfer portal guys. It's kind of weird. So Tennessee's ad drop deadline for classes is Monday. Well, if you go on the student directory and you type in his name, he's in the directory, which means he's been accepted to Tennessee. So obviously, he's considering Tennessee because I have a feeling he probably wouldn't go through the process to get accepted to the school if he wasn't. And I don't think the ad drop deadline plays a role, but I've seen a lot of buzz saying that we'll likely get a decision this weekend. And he was recently in LA, so I'm not really sure where that comes in because I've heard that the big ones Lane Kiffin is still trying to keep him in Ole Miss, and their NIL collective the day before he entered the transfer portal, the Grove Collective, which is the Ole Miss's NIL group, signed him to a deal with the hopes of keeping him in Oxford. And it's a toss-up because a lot of people are saying he's going to commit this weekend because he wants to get in school and wants to get in practice. But you're also waiting to see where Ole Miss's former defensive coordinator is going to end up. Because from what I've been told and what I've read, they were super, super tight. Like, he didn't go to Ole Miss because of Lane Kiffin. He went to Ole Miss because Partridge was there, and, like, they were always super close and talking to each other, and that was, like, his main guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if he came to Tennessee, but I'm not ready to go all in and say, yeah, the Vols are a favorite to land him. Because there's still just so much going on, and the transfer portal is super weird because nobody talks about it. There's no buzz. Like, he'll post in LA one day, and that's like all you get. There's no Twitter posts, or like with high school guys, you usually know where they're at and who they're visiting and what they're saying. But with transfer portal guys, everything happens so quick. It could be the drop of a hat, and he's a volunteer.
Arthur had a question about. Were you going to ask more about Iganobi?
I was going to ask about one more transfer.
Go for it. I guess it's probably maybe Walter.
Yes, I was going to see, is the Walter Nolan thing a troll or is it legit? For those who don't know, Walter Nolan had an Instagram story up yesterday that said portal looking good right now, but it's past the transfer portal deadline, and his teammate said he was trolling. In that Instagram story, I couldn't access when I tried to click on it. So what do you think?
I have no idea. When he was in high school, I remember people telling me that while he was on his visits to Tennessee, he was telling everybody in the box that he'd never put orange on and he'd never go to Tennessee. So it's a toss-up. I don't think – obviously he can't enter the portal until the end of the spring semester. But from a Texas A&M perspective, keeping Walter Nolan was a big statement for Jimbo Fisher and where his program is at. So obviously Texas A&M lost transfers, but you look at guys – you wanted to keep a guy like Walter Nolan, a freshman who you know is probably going to play down the road, because that shows that there's some longevity there. And, I mean, I don't know. You see this with almost like – pro athletes where they tweet about other teams or they're looking for stuff to kind of like leverage their contract. And I mean, in college, it's becoming more and more like professional sports where guys are leveraging contracts and getting paid. And you see contracts falling through, like with Florida, almost like you look at like Carlos Correa, where he couldn't get a contract, he couldn't pass a physical, stuff like that, that the sports are coming more and more alike. And I almost wonder if he's doing it like that because then he also get social media attention, and he gets attention like us talking about it right now. So it might be something like that for people, because I remember when he was in Knoxville, he was like the guy everybody talked about. So I wonder if it's maybe something like that. But I don't think he's going to enter the transfer portal. His brothers played at Powell High School in Knoxville, and one day when they showed up to summer camp, his brothers were gone because his whole family had moved to College Station. So I don't know if they're going to move back.
Yeah, I get the feeling that the Powell High School, and by the way, I have a PhD, Powell High diploma, and so I can give you. I had to go through 3 years of PMS to get it, Powell Middle School. But
Hooker went through PMS. Sorry, I just too many jokes there.
Thank you.
I'm going to hell.
Yeah, but that aside. I never got the inclination from anybody at Powell that he was going to go to Tennessee or even gave Tennessee a strong look. So I don't have any inclination to think that he, just because he could potentially leave A&M, that he would come to Tennessee. There are a couple of posts I want to address on our message board that I don't think necessarily were about Nolan, may have been about somebody else. That he is an attention grabber. That wasn't the term that was used, but that's what I'm going to use. That he was an attention grabber. And the other was that he was a cash grab. Now, used to be when guys would put this stuff out, I would say, you're just looking for attention. Goodness gracious, did your parents not love you enough? And nowadays, I'm like, well, it's not the worst idea to throw your name out there and see if a Lincoln Riley or somebody else comes calling and saying there's a $5 million payday waiting for you. So I don't look at it as negatively as I did before if he's just flirting on social media.
Yeah, I got no problem with it either. If he's trying to increase his pay, I mean, Dave, you talked about it. Coaches did that all the time in the 90s, right? Didn't Fulmer float his name as a potential line coach in the NFL for contract leverage all the time back in the day?
Weekly.
Yeah.
Weekly.
And we know Lane Kiffin teasing the Auburn job to get a raise at Ole Miss. So, yeah.
Jim Harbaugh does it every year.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh does it every single year.
Yeah, he reaches out to NFL teams that say we're not really interested. We're good. The Lane Kiffin thing, I was told that what was floated out there is, and I think I've said this to you, Calhoun, but I'm not sure I said it to Jaru, is the thing that his camp floated out there is that he didn't want to make the move and he turned the Auburn job down because of his kids wanted to stay in Oxford.
Okay. I don't blame his kids.
Okay. So listen, first of all, a coach at that level has never made a decision based off his family. Making the decision to get into college football coaching is bad for your family from the get. Okay. All right. There are rare examples, maybe a Dabo Sweeney where he goes home at 6:00 and he's there for family, but that's rare. Okay. Most of the guys are sleeping in the office and that sort of thing, and they move around at will. So that wasn't going to happen. In particular, Lane Kiffin is going to go wherever he wants to go, and he's not going to ask Knox or any of his other children if they like Oxford or Auburn more. And even adding to that, Knox would say, Dad, go to where your career will best benefit you. Knox is like that old, and eventually Knox, and this is when I will really feel old, Knox will be a starting quarterback for Lane Kiffin. So at that point, that's when I feel just elderly and I'm going to buy Kane whether or not I need it.